All right, let's get started. Today, we're going to zoom in, like way in, to look at the single most important building block for everything that has ever lived. I'm talking from the biggest blue whale all the way down to the tiniest little microbe. We are talking about the cell.
And to really wrap our heads around this, let's start with a question. Think about it. If you could break down any living thing, piece by piece, where would you have to stop before it's, well, not alive anymore? Is it an organ? Is it a tissue? A molecule? What is the absolute fundamental smallest unit of life?
And there's your answer, the cell. It's the structural unit, because, all living things are physically built out of them. And it's the functional unit, because every process that we call life, breathing, moving, thinking, it all happens right there, at the cellular level. It's really the atomic unit of biology.
But here's the thing, this basic fact wasn't always so obvious. For most of human history, this entire microscopic universe was totally invisible to us. So how on earth did we find this blueprint for all living things?
Well, it was a journey, and it happened in steps. It all started back in 1665 when a guy named Robert Hooke looked at cork under a microscope and saw these little empty boxes he called cells. Then, just a few years later, Antony von Leeuwenhoek became the first person to see actual living, swimming cells. We jump forward to the 1830s and two scientists, Schleiden and Schwann, put it all together and realized, hey, all plants and animals are made of these things. But there was still one major piece missing from the puzzle.
And this right here, this simple phrase from Rudolf Virchow in 1855 was the final piece. Omnis cellula e cellula. It basically means that new cells don't just poof appear out of nowhere. No, they can only come from other cells that already exist. This powerful idea completed what we now call the modern cell theory. So the bottom line is, all life is made of cells, and all cells come from other cells. Simple as that.
Okay, so we've established that all life is built from these incredible little bricks, but does that mean they're all identical? Is a bacterium using the same exact blueprint as an elephant?
As it turns out, not quite. Life on our planet pretty much uses two fundamentally different blueprints. You can think of it as, the simple classic model and then the complex deluxe edition. We call them the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell.
And this table really breaks it down for us. On one side, you've got prokaryotic cells. Think bacteria. They're the simple blueprint. Their DNA just kind of floats around inside, and they don't have a lot of complex internal machinery. It's like a basic studio apartment. Everything's in one room. But eukaryotic cells, the kind that make up plants, animals, fungi, and you, they're the complex blueprint. They're way bigger, and they have a special secure room for their DNA called the nucleus. Plus, they're packed with all these specialized little structures called organelles, each with a specific job. It's not a studio apartment. It's a bustling, sprawling city.
And since we're all made of these complex city cells, let's just run with that analogy. Come on, let's take a quick tour inside.
First stop, every single cell, whether it's simple or complex, has a plasma membrane. This is the city's border control. It's this flexible barrier that wraps around the entire cell and meticulously controls everything that gets in and everything that goes out. It keeps the good stuff in and the bad stuff out.
Now, in our complex eukaryotic city, the most important building by far is the nucleus. Think of this as City Hall. It's a secure, double-walled fortress that protects the city's most precious asset, the master blueprint, the DNA. Every single instruction for building and running the entire city is locked away safely inside.
Of course, a city's not going to get much done without power, right? That's where the mitochondria come in. These are the power plants. They're working 24/7, converting food into usable energy that fuels every single thing that happens in the cell. No mitochondria, no power. No power, no life. So that's the basic tour of our cellular city. But if we zoom back out and look at the real world, it becomes obvious that cells aren't all one size fits all. The sheer diversity in their shapes and sizes is just mind-boggling, and each one is perfectly suited for its unique job.
So let's talk scale for a second. We'll start with the smallest of the small. The tiniest known living cells belong to a bacteria called mycoplasma, and they can be just 0.1 micrometers across. To put that in perspective, we're talking about 1,000th the width of a single human hair. Just incredibly tiny.
Okay, so that's the smallest. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. What do you think is the longest cell in your own body? A muscle cell? Maybe? Skin cell? Nope. It's actually a single nerve cell, a neuron, that can stretch all the way from the base of your spine down to your big toe. That is one single cell. That can be a meter long.
All right, so we've been through the history, the different types, the main parts, the wild sizes. But so what? Let's bring this all back home. Why does any of this tiny, invisible world actually matter to you?
Here's why it matters. Because, in the most literal sense possible, cells are you. They're the foundation of your existence. Understanding how they work is the absolute key to modern medicine. Everything from fighting diseases to creating life-saving vaccines. They hold the genetic blueprint, the DNA, that makes you uniquely you. And maybe the most amazing part? The fact that a person, a plant, and a bacterium are all built from these same fundamental bricks, well, it just proves how deeply connected all life on this planet truly is.
And that brings us to one last big thought to leave you with. We think of ourselves as a single person, right? One unified being. But we're also a cooperative of something like 37 trillion individual, living, breathing cellular cities, all working together. So if we are both one and many at the exact same time, what does it truly mean to be us? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.